complexities of institutions, the number of institutions is growing very fast. At the same time, we need to be able to track down what is going on. We need to be able to manage. So I'm very happy that we have this symposium discussing this, in particular with respect to the Higher Education Students Loan Board. Technology is very important because the function of the board is actually an issue of distributive justice, to use the scarce resources that we have to ensure that those who need most the support of the public are afforded the support to be able to acquire the education that they need. In principle, education has to be a human right, that everybody should have an opportunity to study. But given the scarcity of the resources, we have no choice but to allocate. And the allocation itself will have to use means testing to know who needs more and who can actually afford to pay for their own education. It's a big challenge. In spite of all the improvement that have been made by the board and the effort that is going in improving the distribution system, we still have a number of challenges. And you can imagine what will be the pain you can feel if there is one single person who deserves to get the loan and fail to get because our system is not efficient. Our system fails to pick those who are in need. And those challenges will encounter time and again. And therefore, technology will help us to improve distribution of loan, to gather more information, and to improve efficiency at the same time. I mean, if you improve efficiency, the productivity, it means also that the overhead cost will come down. And it's very important that we bring down the overhead cost, we save the money, and make sure that the money that we save will be allocated to students who need the money for their studies. And therefore, I think I'm very happy that we are discussing these issues of digital technology. We'll exchange ideas here and see how we can improve our system, especially to improve the means testing. But it's not usual that when I afforded these kind of opportunities that I give policy directives, but today I will do that. Number one, we should completely avoid duplication of effort. We should dovetail on ongoing efforts rather than having multiplicity of efforts that are trying to achieve the same thing, but with different players and different systems and so on. And I'll explain why this is important. We have had these kind of problems before, and probably I should say this. I served in the Treasury for 2 years before, and I remember the competition of what you call vendor-driven companies trying to encourage the Election Commission wanted to have its own system, and Department of Immigration want to have its own system, and NIDA want to have its own system. So the agency that deals with national ID insisted that they need to have their own system, a software, gadget, and so on, their own budget. And then the Electoral Commission that could have just picked the information from the agency that registers citizens wanted to have its own system, the budget, and then migration and people who are coming in the country and going out, they also wanted to have their own system. And that was towards the election of 2015. And these are vendor-driven because somebody comes and says, I can help you to solve this problem, to have how to vote and so on. And whatever kind of discussions that take place makes those responsible refuse to to try to collect information from other government agencies. And there's duplication, wasteful. So we had NIDA, and then Electoral Commission. Electoral Commission can actually pick information from NIDA. But if you are a citizen, you have ID, your age is known, you can take the subset of those who are 18 years going up, draw the data and try to verify and move forward. But nobody wanted to seed the ground. Everybody wanted to go into contract with the companies. So the first directive I'm giving, no duplication. Here, let's learn from each other, but let's not duplicate the efforts that are ongoing. It will be wasteful of resources that we need to help those who are in need of education. As I said, education basically should be a human right, but you cannot afford to offer everybody. And therefore, we are using means testing. And even then, there are complaints that there's not enough resources to cater for those who perhaps they're in need. Therefore, we should not duplicate and waste public resources that can be used to help. That's number one. Number two, we need homegrown solution. We don't want, and this is a policy directives also, and I'll put it in writing. We don't need to acquire software from somewhere else and come to adopt here and start to pay. We must try to sit down and work. I know the universities, they have their own systems. Imperfect as they are, we can always work through to improve them. When I started, we were working at the university, those who were my age. Remember something called black sheet, red sheet, and so on, how you fill in the students' performance. We move on, and I think there was a guy called Zalongwa. He had a company called Zalongwa, he's lecturer at the university, created a system. It helped us to improve, and now, I know University, for instance, of Dar es Salaam, they have ARIS, where they're managing students' information system. Once a student is admitted, they can manage performance going forward. Now, I know we still have challenges from one institution to the other, but it shows that we can manage to have homegrown solutions. So the second thing I want to insist is that let's exchange ideas, let's learn from what is happening elsewhere, but we will have to have a homegrown solution. I think the capability is there if we are determined to do that. If we are determined to do that, I think we have made huge strides trying to solve our own problems. I think the Treasury with control numbers and so on, the way we conduct government payments now, those were homegrown, made by our own people. Give them confidence, put them together, they will solve it at a low cost and we'll move on. What we need is to learn from others, what others are doing. We learn from what they're doing and try to see what we can do at the same time. Matters of digital, actually, it's just brain. You don't need hardware as much. You need hardware, but remember, mostly, and now if we don't have brains, that would be a different matter altogether. We have how many universities now? Public universities, 12? Yeah. We have people learning ICT, teaching. If we cannot help us to solve the problem, then something is wrong. Now, with that, let me say the ongoing effort widely. So I hope your symposium, in your discussions, will take that note and see how we can move forward. We have put a team together, and I think the board is part of the team, to try to collect, to form a system that will track down every child who goes to school, from preschool all the way to university. In other countries, I think in the US, they have what they call social security number that will identify you all the time. But I know the system in Sweden where you have personal number, that everybody in the country has a number. Even if you are a foreigner with permanent residence permit, you must have a personal number. You are going to the library, you have to show your personal number to acquire services. To the bank, if you are at the university, your results are actually posted in terms of your personal number, not in terms of your name. So they have a unique number. I think in our country, we are driving towards that. I think it's going to be called Jamii number, something like that. That will try to track every citizen in this country with the number. Now, but before this announcement of Jamii number were announced, we had already made decision in the ministry that every child in this country who goes to school will have to give them a number. We have numbers for those who are registered in public schools and who are going to sit for National Examination Council of Tanzania exams. But those who are going through international schools, we don't have them. If you go through Tanganyika international schools, doing Cambridge education, we don't have information. That's why, because when I joined the ministry, I was asking my colleagues, can you tell me the net enrollment rate in the country? What does that mean? It means that if we say when you start school, you'll start school when you are 6 years old, then I want to know of all 6-year-olds in the country, what percentages are actually in school. That's different from gross enrollment rate. We're just looking at towards it. Now, I'll ask them, can you look at the demographic projections in the country, track down the number, and tell me how many are in school? I realize we need to solve this type of information in the country because I couldn't get an answer, proper answer the way I wanted it. And we want to know students who are dropping out, the dropout, and at what time can we track down standard 2 or grade 2, those who were registered, how many are still in school? All right, we know there's a significant dropout by looking at those who are recruited to enter grade 1 7 years before, by looking at those who will sit for exam. And we know how many we have lost along the way. But can we track very quickly which school is losing more students so that we can intervene? Before you go to grade 7 as the matter stands now, can you actually track down it? It was not possible. That's number one. Number two, we have what is called Basic Education Statistics of Tanzania. And BEST gives you information only for schools managed by President's Office, Local Government Authority, TAMISEMI, mostly. And actually we found that department that deals with BEST had been moved from the Ministry of Education to Local Government Authority. Local Government Authority administers public schools. Our interest is any Tanzanian going to school. So our resolve was that we must have information for all students, irrespective of whether they're in private school or public schools or international schools, number one. But number two, the Basic Education Statistics of Tanzania meant to track down information about basic education. Now we want basic statistics for the entire education sector all the way to higher education. Now what you're going to have, and I think the team is doing that, and they're almost done, is to unify our systems. TCU, Tanzania Commission for Universities, NACTIVATE, that is mid-level colleges, and National Examination Council of Tanzania, and Commissioner of Education, I don't know whether he's here, the office that registers any school irrespective of whether you are following national curriculum or not, to make sure that we can track a child who starts school, preschool, when they go to primary school, when they go to secondary school, to higher education, if they are going to mid-level or other colleges, or what we call VETA in this country, that is VCT. VCT is not digitalized. So you cannot actually track digitally those who are enrolled. And we're going to make sure that that information is put together. And we want also to track down universities, the dropout, because they cannot afford to go to universities. And we have some dropouts. That's why the responsibility of the board is sacrosanct. There are Tanzanians who are registered to universities. Intellectually, they are very capable. They start first year, and then they cannot afford to go to the second year, or they are in the second year, they lose their parents, or so they drop out because they cannot afford. They cannot afford to continue. So we want to be able, just at flash, to just make sure that I can look through my laptop or tablets and know which university, which program is losing students, and try to track them out, what is going on. So this effort is ongoing. We believe we are going to unify the entire system. We just want to make sure that when you have applications of software, they speak to each other. You can have common platform which will translate data from National Examination Council of Tanzania to NACTIVATE or to TCU, and linkages to the board. Because you receive students who are applying for loan from high school or from mid-level colleges that they want to go to universities. So that information ought to be there. You can quickly check where they were registered, the performance, and so on. And then we can link that with National Identification Department, NIDA. I don't know what is abbreviation for exactly. So these are the kind of things. It's an ongoing effort. That's why I'm saying whatever discussions you are going to have here, make sure that you are trying to find an approach that can only dovetail on ongoing effort or help us to shape the effort that is already in place. Maybe the direction we are taking, we need to realign, we need to shape it. From experience, we'll learn from Adopt IT and from other countries, and we'll say, okay, maybe the best way to do is to change the direction, because the board is part of the team. And therefore, I hope at the end of the day, what we'll get from here is lessons that can help us to improve. First of all, I repeat that there won't be any duplication, because we can actually inform what you are trying to do to improve from your symposium here that you are talking about, because the IT was very good at marketing, and that's why I'm saying, hey, this is marketing. I don't have all the time to to listen to marketing. I'm here to look at the solutions of managing the education sector. But listen to the presentation by Thabo and Siabonga. I can tell that you have quite expertise and you are rich in different countries, in Nigeria and so on and so forth. It means you can actually share with us what they're doing there. So all we want to do is to learn from you, and we'll solve it ourselves. We just see what you're doing and then we solve it ourselves. We should not use resources. We should not use public resources that could have helped a student gain a loan to do something that we should not be too lazy to. So I believe that capability is there. The only thing we must do, the important thing we have to do, is to learn from others. Go to South Africa, sit with these guys, bring some people here to look at what you're doing and learn and move forward. And I am completely confident, because I've seen in this country things moving on. It's almost the first time I'm giving policy directives. I'll repeat: no duplication, homegrown solution. And more important, whatever we're trying to do, it has to align itself and actually dovetail on the larger effort that is going on. And if it doesn't fit with what we are doing, and if we realize that we could have done better in the larger effort, let's get the information so that we can realign the larger effort that is taking place. I think the group keeps meeting in Morogoro. Last time I saw in Morogoro. Morogoro, where, right. Last time I met the chair of the steering committee. He told me that they're almost there. That's why in our budgetary speech we are bragging that we are almost there. And I believe what you are doing here will hasten the process of unifying information systems in our entire education sector to improve efficiency, and for the board mostly to ensure that it improves its function, which I'll characterize as distributive justice, to make sure that those in need indeed are supported to acquire the education that is indeed their right. With those few remarks, right?
Tumedhamiria, tunaboresha elimu yetu.